Hello everyone, welcome back to the Zekko Football channel. There are only 10 games left in the Premier League season. Just goal difference separates Arsenal and Liverpool, while Manchester City are trailing both of them by a singular point. This is the closest title race that we've had in quite some time. And today we're going to be asking the question of who has the most difficult run-in, because that'll play a massive part in who finally comes out on top. If you are new to the channel, please make sure that you subscribe, you like the video, and you turn on those notifications so that you don't miss what's coming up. But now, let's get into it. When we are trying to decide who has the more difficult fixtures going into the run-in of the Premier League, we need to consider a load of different factors. One of them being the actual form of the teams that are currently in contention. Now, we need to look at the likes of home form, where we have Liverpool, who are currently on top of their home form. Man City are bottom of this little mini-league, mini-table, if you will. Then you see that Liverpool are actually worse in away form. Arsenal are the best in away form. They've actually gathered the most goal difference from the away form by about 10 goals. Now, that's not bad at all, but when you consider the fact that Arsenal have played more of the teams in the bottom half of the table than the other two, then it starts to get a little bit complicated. But it's in taking all of these factors that we need to consider when determining who has the toughest run-in. Now, we're going to start going through each and every club and having a look at their fixtures to begin with, and then going through those little nuances, going through those little features that might make the difference. We're going to start off with Liverpool, I think. Now, Liverpool, as every of these teams do, have 10 games left to play, but I'm looking at a number of different things. Do they have a real standout fixture in terms of a derby? Do they have to play each other? Do they have to play a number of teams in the top half of the table or in the bottom half of the table? And all of this needs to go into the thinking when we're determining who will have the toughest fixture going in, or the toughest run-in going into the last few games of the Premier League season. So Liverpool have Brighton at home. That's a sensible match. I think it's fine. They then have Sheffield United at home. These are two of their home matches that have already been taken up. I think the Brighton one's fine, but Sheffield United should be a win regardless of whether it's home or away. Then they have the big one. There's Manchester United. They have Manchester United away from home. Now, judging by Manchester United's form, this shouldn't be a thing that really hurts Liverpool. But considering it's something of a derby, it's a real rivalry, and form really goes out the window in this current point in time, this is going to be their real sticking point, their major game. Lose this or drop points in this and you're in serious danger. I think Liverpool have to win this match to be able to continue the pressure in the title race. I expect them to win it, but it's never going to be easy. Then you're looking at the Europa League. You're looking at the European matches. Now, they play Atalanta, and what's one benefit from being in the Europa League is it's going to give Jurgen Klopp the ability to make changes. The difference in time between the games is also going to be something that's a determining factor. So Liverpool only have 3 days between the Europa League game and their next Premier League game, which is against Crystal Palace. Now, that's not a bad fixture to have, and we'll talk about how it affects the other teams a little bit later on. But so far, Liverpool have a decent fixture run. Then they go back to Atalanta, but away from home this time, so it means extra travelling. Then they need to go away for home to Fulham. Again, 3 days later. That's not a long turnaround, and this is where teams are going to start to pick up injuries. We've already notified on this channel how many injuries Liverpool have had this season, and it's starting to become a bit of a factor. However, Fulham isn't too much of a difficult fixture, but they do have good form at home. If we go back and have a look at the home form, we can see that Fulham actually have the 7th best home record in the league currently. So for Liverpool, that is a difficult and dangerous game, especially when you consider the fact that it's a second leg of a European tie. They've been travelling. It's difficult to really look at. Everton are then going to be the major one as well. The derby, following on from that Fulham game. Only 3 days, I might add. 3 days is not a long turnaround at all. You're then looking for them to pick up points against Everton, but it's never going to be an easy ride against their local rivals. You've got West Ham following, Tottenham, which is going to be a big game. One big fun fact is that Tottenham and Aston Villa, who just essentially Liverpool follow on from, they play all of the 3 sides. So they are going to be the determining factor as to how the title race really unfolds. You're looking towards how each and every side deals with both of these fixtures and who can come out on top, who's going to be dropping points, who's going to be having the worst run. And then it's talking about where is it going to be fitted. Is it going to be fitted in between a European match? Is it going to be after a set of games that you're not too happy with? And then finally their last fixture is against Wolves, a team that they've been quite happy playing against. That being said, Gary Neville's side have done a very good job of utilising the counter-attack, and if Liverpool have to win the game and they commit bodies forward, we have seen them exposed on a certain amount of occasions. So this is not going to be an easy run-in whatsoever, but it all depends on what the other teams have. So let's take a look. Let's take a look at Manchester City. We know from looking at the table that Man City have the second best away record and the third best home record. It's still pretty amazing. It's still better than the other teams around them, bar Arsenal and Liverpool, of course. But when we take it to the fixtures, these two are going to be the real crucial ones for me. And it's not just because they're the ones coming up soon, it's because of what they mean and the actual factors below them. This game is incredibly important because it's the only time that Arsenal and Liverpool have left to be able to take points off of Manchester City. This Aston Villa game is really dangerous because Villa are actually the fourth best team away from home in the Premier League. And as we can see, Manchester City are the third best side at home. Put these two together and it's actually really, really impressive, and it should set up for a really good game. Forwarding on, we have Crystal Palace, which shouldn't be too much of a difficulty for Manchester City considering they're the second best team at away grounds. Then they roll into their Champions League games against Real Madrid, who they absolutely schooled the last time they played them. In between those games is something we've really been talking about with Liverpool, their game against Luton. Now, if this was away from home, I'd have far more worry for Manchester City, but considering the fact that it's home and I think that Luton are going to play very much a counter-attacking opportunity, I can see them dealing with that quite easily. They then go into their game at home against Real Madrid. That then follows into a game in the FA Cup against Chelsea. They'll have a game against Tottenham, which is postponed. Again, Manchester City, Liverpool and Arsenal play both Tottenham and Villa in different scenarios. So that's going to be something to really look out for and how that's going to shape the title race. Obviously, in the FA Cup, City play Chelsea. That then rolls into Brighton away from home. This could go to extra time, and it'll be really interesting to see how that plays out. If Chelsea knock Man City out, that's one fewer game to play, but if they win, it's one extra game to play. The matches will start piling up, as they have done for the other teams. And then you're looking at the final run-in. You've got Nottingham Forest, you've got Wolves at home, Fulham away from home, and West Ham. And I think this bulk of games is actually quite easy for Man City. I think it's a real stroll, which is why I've mentioned the starting point of this amount of games with the likes of Aston Villa, Arsenal, and then Crystal Palace, which could be something of a bogey side, but I don't really see it going into that Real Madrid fixture. If Man City are going to drop points, it's these two games. But overall, I think they have a decent run-in. I think they have an easier run-in than Liverpool, if I'm honest. Get through those two fixtures, and I think they're absolutely fine. And that leaves the final side, the team from North London. Arsenal fans, we need to talk because this is not good, if I'm honest with you. It's not looking great. If we have a look at some of these fixtures, it's looking a little bit worrisome. We have Arsenal in first in terms of away form, and they're second in terms of home form. Now, the away form is really, really important, but what's a big caveat to take with this is the fact that Arsenal have played more sides in the bottom half of the table than the other two. So it's almost unnaturally inflating their away form because they haven't played the same level of teams over the same period of matches. And that's what makes this so interesting. So that's just something to consider. But when we're looking at Arsenal's fixtures, I think it's really important to note some of these major ties. The game that they have against Manchester City, I've already mentioned it from City's point of view. This for me is a must-win for Arsenal. Just from a mentality point of view, from an ability to really hurt City, they have to win this game. If they don't win this game, I think they're already naturally on the back foot. I think they'll have seen this as a massive missed opportunity. I think they'll take that negative feeling into some of the extra games. Even if they win them, they have to win it. Nearly everything of Arsenal's charge is on this game. They have to win. They have to earn the right to be able to lift the Premier League title, and there's no better place to do it than the home of the champions. Moving on into that, we have Arsenal playing Luton and Brighton away from home. We've mentioned how important away from home matches are, and Brighton are definitely not the side they were last season, but they're still a tricky customer, and that rolls them into their European fixture, which is obviously against Bayern Munich. Now, there's a lot of emotional loss here. There's a lot of emotional ties with Bayern Munich, and I'm sure Arsenal will want to make a statement. But the fact that they're going to be back in Europe in those quarterfinals, how difficult they found it against Porto, I don't see this being the walk in the park that a lot of Arsenal fans do. I see this being really difficult. Bayern Munich are by no means their best, but I still think I see it being a really tough game for Arsenal. And then that follows into one of the toughest fixtures I think you could get, which is against Aston Villa. Barring the top three, we have Aston Villa, who are the fourth best side in the league away from home. Couple that with the fact that Arsenal will be coming off of a really emotional tie against Bayern Munich. Yes, it's 5 days later, which gives them some recovery time, but generally I think it's going to be really tough. They then have to travel to Munich after playing against Aston Villa. This is a relentless period, and it's actually from this moment, from when the European games start, that I think is going to be Arsenal's toughest test. They then follow on to an away game against Wolves, who are very good on the counter-attack, very good at exploiting space and weakness. I understand Arsenal dominate games a little bit better, but coming off of possibly a negative result, maybe. I'm not trying to throw anything at Arsenal fans, but if you don't get the result you desire against Bayern Munich, you need to not bring that into the next Premier League game, and that's where the results start to get a little bit iffy. You've got a big game against Chelsea, albeit Chelsea aren't as good as they used to be, but they definitely get themselves up for bigger competition. They get themselves up for a real major test. They play better against the better sides. That then rolls into a North London derby, and you see where I'm going with this already. Arsenal have some really tough games. They play Arsenal, they play Arsenal, they play Chelsea, they play Tottenham. Arsenal can't play Arsenal. They play Tottenham. They then play Bournemouth, who are a good footballing side. Yes, they are probably not as strong as I think a lot of people would have expected them to be, considering some of the form that they've had, but they're still not bad. They then run into Manchester United away from home. And these are some of the games that I think we need to notice. They play Tottenham away from home. They play Man United away from home. They play Wolves away from home. Or are all good sides in terms of transition. Tottenham play a really high possession-based game, but they're also really high maintenance. They're high profile. They're high energy. Man United are always going to be a difficult task, especially in towards the run-in. And then they play Everton, who might end up playing for their Premier League lives. Sean Dyche knows how to set up a side in a defensive point, and if Arsenal need to win the game, they might leave themselves exposed at the back. For me, I've got to say that Arsenal have by far the toughest run-in. Just noting some of these games and some of the emotional ties that come into it, let alone if Arsenal get through this tie against Bayern Munich and this tie against Bayern Munich, they have to play the winner of Manchester City or Real Madrid. Now, it wouldn't surprise me if Arsenal got through against Bayern Munich and then they had to play the Premier League champions again to try and get that mental fortitude back to really establish themselves in the hierarchy in their minds. I think all of these games are absolutely crucial, obviously for every single side, but for Arsenal, this is definitely the toughest run-in. And it's this key period right here that I think is going to make or break Arsenal's season. They then run into some extremely tough fixtures, but I think get through this moment, get through these set of games, and you've got yourselves set for a great end to the season. But my question to you guys is, how do you see this playing out? We've had a look at all of the fixtures. Who do you think has the toughest run-in, and how do you see the Premier League title race ending? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something new, and I hope to see you in the next one. But until then, my friends, take care.